Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the Major channel. Today we're going to be looking into some of my biggest sleeper players that I've delved into and done some analysis on for the 2025 NFL Draft. Continued draft coverage as the draft continues to get closer. Not only working on these videos, but I also have a couple of other videos in relation to fantasy football and possibly some gaming if I can get this capture card set up. Possibly we could do some Madden UFL franchise, which is a custom 32 teams, all custom made, just imported into the game, and then you take the NFL's current players, you put them on these brand new teams, and then you see what ends up happening with the fantasy draft. And I'd like to get possibly some videos going on that, and like I said, I have continued draft coverage coming out, and we're going to do our first back-to-back uploads. I know I just uploaded yesterday, but today we're going to also do the sleeper video as well. Getting into my first sleeper player of the draft, and these are just a couple of players that I haven't really heard many people talking about, and that starts off with Danny Stutsman. He's a linebacker out of Oklahoma. He's played a couple of years there, and he's pretty nice. Like, watching some of his film, he's not the fastest linebacker in the world, but he has the instincts and the play recognition, which allow him to have such great production. I believe he's one of the players that has only gotten better every single year that he's played, and he has. Yes, he was the finalist last year for the Butkus Award, which is awarded to the nation's top linebacker, and I feel like he just has great high motor, just simply is going to be like one of those effective linebackers at the next level. I see comparisons to Jack Campbell, and I could see him getting drafted similarly, where he can move up the board, maybe not all the way to the first round, but maybe in the second round. He's projected around round 3 to 4 now, but I see a lot of great ability in him. I feel like you could get a decent linebacker from him, maybe shades of an Alex Highsmith or something like that, like a smaller, miniaturized version of an Alex Highsmith, but who later develops on and becomes a better linebacker. Another good comparison would actually be Cole Holcomb. He just kind of sat on Washington for a couple of years and then slowly developed and rose and became this kind of adequate linebacker. I see actually a lot more similarities with Holcomb than maybe a player like Alex Highsmith to Danny Stutsman, and he may be a player that sits for a couple of years on a team's linebacking crew, but then when he gets the chance to play, I feel like he could be really great. Then we get to Kyle Monangai. And Kyle Monangai he's a polarizing player because apparently he's supposed to be a possible UDFA option right now. For me, I have him projected going anywhere from rounds 5 to round 7. 6 would be right where I feel like he could end up going, but honestly, it's whatever happens with any medical background checks and stuff like that. But watching him play at Rutgers, this is a player that has never fumbled the ball in his entire collegiate career, which I feel like is impressive in and of itself. And then he has a sturdy base. He's a strong player, lower center of gravity, and it makes it very difficult for those defenses to try and get after him. At the same time, he's not the fastest player in the world, but he has good motion cuts as well. But the base also is a little bit narrow, and then he kind of lacks a bit of his pace to be able to carry the football as well. So I don't know. There's some good with him. There's some bad. It's kind of why it makes him a sleeper player. But at the same time, a lot of people are projecting him as a backup now. See, I could see he's easily going to start as a second to third string player, but I could see a few years from now possibly he gets the chance to start and he could actually prove himself. And I feel like he gets some of those shades of Isaiah Pacheco. Not exactly similar players in the way that they play and their style of game, but both coming from Rutgers, both late round picks. I see some similarities there, and I do see a couple of similarities in Monangai's game too. He plays a little bit bigger than he actually is as well, which is something that Isaiah Pacheco plays whenever he's running, and you see it whenever he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's just a very powerful runner, and I feel like Monangai does the same thing. We get to Elijah Arroyo, and this player, you might not think he's much of a sleeper, but for me, I don't know. You have the top tight ends in the class like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, Harold Fannin Jr. Arroyo is kind of like right behind those players for me. I mean, I know he's getting talks about second round draft type, but I don't know. He only has one really great season, and he's played for 4 years. He has injury issues as well. He's just, I don't know. I think will eventually be like a solid starter, but at the same time, he's got sloppy hand placement, and his contact balance remains kind of not phenomenal, to say the least. If I could just say a little bit about it, it's not very good contact balance. His hands are very nice, though. He has a large wingspan. He's a very big guy for a tight end. Most tight ends are usually large, but Elijah Arroyo takes that to the next level. He's really big, and I like him at this point as kind of a sleeper player. Not a lot of people have really been talking about him, and despite all of his issues with injuries and such, he's fought through them, and he's a dude that moved with his family from Miami to Mexico when he was like a child, and then he played American football for a youth club for years and years, and then ended up going to Texas during middle school. So he's kind of moved around, and then he starts playing for the Miami Hurricanes, his like hometown team. And I don't know, I kind of like the storylines going behind Elijah Arroyo, and I feel like a team picks him up and lets him develop, and he could be a plus starter one day. But at the same time, he's a sleeper player for a reason. Only one good season out of 4 total. He was redshirted for one of those seasons, but at the same time, you want to see some more production. Then we get on to my 4th player, and that is Jonah Savinea. This guy was talked about as a first-round talent, say, like a year ago. I know a lot of players on that Arizona team were talked about as first-round talents, but Jonah Savinea he still has that ability. He's a really great player, and he's apparently expected to go, where is it, rounds 2 to 3 at this point. Most likely, I could see him going probably round 2. Maybe round 3. I don't know if you really consider him a crazy sleeper, because the talent's there. Like, it's really easy to see. Like, he, in his last year, kind of fell off a little bit, but not really. I mean, he just ended up playing at left tackle and right tackle, so he was kind of building up that arsenal for a pass blocker. So he just has more versatility now. I feel like he's only grown as a player, although he was playing for the first time at left tackle and right tackle. He had played some in 2023, but mostly he was playing a couple of different positions for the first time. You know, right guard, right tackle, left tackle. He can flex all over the offensive line, you know, wherever you need to put him. He has some experience. I wouldn't personally put him at tackle. I don't think once he gets to that next level he's a tackle. But I think he's shown that he can move along that offensive line wherever you need him to play. And at this point, he's a bit of a sleeper player. I haven't heard anybody talk about him in a while, and I really do like his game. And I think him, Ted McMillan, and just that whole Arizona squad was really nice to watch, like going back a year or so ago. And Savinea was a major part of it. Outside of him, that offensive line was not very good. So then we get on to Jalen Royals, one of my massive sleepers in the draft. He's been a sleeper of mine for a minute. I like the way Jalen Royals plays. Some have compared him to a player like Juju Smith-Schuster. I see more out of him than a player like Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, he's not just like that gadget type player. Like, he fights hard for his catch space on contested throws, and he's keenly aware of where defenders are positioned. That's a major part of his game. He knows where these players are, and he knows how to fight for that football. Apparently, projection rounds 2 to 3. I think he more goes rounds 4 to 5. He's just only gotten better every single year. Outside of his last year, he did suffer a foot injury, but outside of that, 2023, 1,080 receiving yards, and he had 15 receiving touchdowns, which was an FBS school record, by the way. And then his last season, he was on pace to break that record when he started 7 games, but then ended up getting a foot injury. But at the same time, you take a chance on a guy like Jalen Royals. I mean, you might see a little bit of Romeo Doubs play. They played at the same school. I don't think they're similar players for the most part. But I think you see that upside with Royals too. They took Romeo Dobbs so late, the Packers, and he ended up panning out, and he's kind of a plus starter in the league. You know, he's a wide receiver 3, 4, and I see the same type of upside out of a Jalen Royals. But who knows? He could prove me wrong, prove everybody wrong, and be an even better receiver than that. Just have to see where his skills end up taking him. Let me get to Quincy Riley, the cornerback out of Louisville. This is a guy that has risen up a couple people's boards as a sleeper prospect. He's now one of the more highly coveted, maybe second, third round corners. He's really been nice to like watch his film and such. He played originally at Middle Tennessee State. He's also a former track athlete. He's running 60-meter, 200-meter dashes at MTSU. And I like him a lot. I like him maybe back into the third round, you know, maybe middle of the third round if a team really covets his ability. He's struggles some with his vision and his response timing, but at the same time, he has really good hips. He's got that hip fluidity, good focus with the hands whenever he needs to make a catch. He's not a player that's going to catch you a lot of INTs, but he's going to be a player that's going to make that PBU, that pass interference on the ball, you know, not pass interference, but you know, that pass breakup on the ball. He is a very nice player to watch, and that's what makes him one of the sleepers on here. Played for Louisville, played for Middle Tennessee State. He's kind of got a decent amount of experience at this point, and I feel like he has good potential to develop into a starter one day. Rashard Smith, who is also another player like Quincy Riley, who has become a lot of people's favorite for sleeper late in this draft. Projections rounds 4 to 5. He's fun to watch, honestly. Rashard Smith, he's another player that's really only gotten better with time, and he has great abilities. I feel like if you're looking for maybe a 5th, 6th, 7th round running back that falls to you, Rashard Smith isn't a bad option. I don't think he's the most amazing running back in the world. I think at SMU he did what he needed to do. He didn't have a crazy heavy workload or anything like that, and he's continued to run with a bit of hesitation whenever he plays. But at the same time, you know, his legs are pretty fresh, only about 253 overall career carries. And he's a nice player, you know, he's able to quickly spin around, sidestep defenders if he needs to. He's played at Miami, he has the punt coverage ability or kick return ability, and he could be a really nice special teamer, and that's what the league is kind of panning to at this point. So I feel like getting a player like him is nice. You could throw him in as your third string, second string running back, or you could have him take some kick returns to the house. You know, I feel like Rashard Smith is a decent player, and he's a nice sleeper to have. Now this player is one of my personal favorites for a sleeper, and that's Olu Oladejo. He's a linebacker / edge rusher out of UCLA who has, just like a lot of these other players, only gotten better each year. Originally started playing for California, say back in 2021, but since then ended up transferring to UCLA. And he's a linebacker turned edge rusher, and he's just a player that goes from dull to dynamic with the switch of a button. You're not ready for him, and then he's just boom blasting you in the backfield, you know, blasting a running back or a defensive end. He just greets and discards blockers with amazingly twitchy hands, and is definitely one of my players in this class where I'm like, a team gets him late round and he is highly coveted. He is so fun to watch, honestly, and maybe that doesn't transition to the next level, but at the same time I feel like it does. Like he's got high motor, he's got that ability to, you know, use chop, spin, inside transition moves, any of these possible moves, and he has expanded playmaking range as well. He's a decent tackler, and there's a couple of weaknesses to his game, but these are things that I feel he can improve upon. You know, heavy feet, sluggish change of direction I've wrote down, additional time to iron out edge technique. See, these are all things that can be worked upon. I feel like you sit him for a little bit, have him as a backup linebacker if need be. You throw him into play and just see what he can learn, maybe from a mentor linebacker. I feel like he has that ability to become a plus starter in not very long, honestly. Anyways, we're back. Sorry, technical difficulties. As we get on to my next player, and that is Jack Beck, the wide receiver out of TCU, whose brother sadly passed away in the events which happened in New Orleans on New Year's Day. And I feel like that extra piece, kind of makes you root for Jack Beck a little bit more. I think he's an awesome player in general as well, and I feel like a fit on a team like the Saints would be really nice. He's got comparisons to Cedric Tillman and a couple of other those kind of above average play strength wide receivers and he has great ball tracking, razor sharp catch focus downfield, and I don't really see too many flaws in Jack Beck's game. I feel like he's a decent wide receiver. He has a little bit of struggle against aggressive press coverage. That's something that he can develop over time. Overall, really like his game a lot, and you got to feel for him at the same time. With the loss of his brother, you got to hope his career pans out, because he's doing it for him. And at the same time, he's just a great player overall as well. One of the sleepers of this class, who I really like. Back end of the second round, early third round, Jack Beck is probably that guy, So we get to Braden Swinson, the edge from LSU. I don't have too much to personally say about Braden Swinson. I like his game. He's just kind of a guy that I put on here because not a lot of people are talking about him. He has the ability to run 3-4 rush linebacker in addition to playing edge rusher. He has really active hands and a good, well-timed release, I've noticed watching him. His acceleration creates great momentum to swarm the passer on certain downs. And playing at LSU, he's been pretty fun to watch, but he's originally ended up playing at Oregon before transferring to LSU, and then just kind of had one of his best seasons playing for LSU. Like him a lot in the later rounds, and he's not getting a lot of draft hype right now, but he's really fun to watch. And then Kyle McCord. I never ever thought I would be putting Kyle McCord on a draft sleepers list, but he just had one of the best seasons in Syracuse history, I want to say. He played freaking awesome. If I could pull up his stats here, we got 34 passing touchdowns, 12 INTs, and then he was the Holiday Bowl offensive MVP, had almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. His dad is a former quarterback at Rutgers, which is cool as well. And he was ranked 5th with school record the school record. He ended up having 34 passing touchdowns, like I said, and he led the FBS with ACC record 4,700 passing yards and a school record 391 completions. That's pretty amazing for a player that a year ago you were going, he's horrible. He's absolutely shit. Watching him play at Ohio State with all those weapons, you're just like, oh my god, you have all these players around you, Kyle McCord, all the chances to succeed, and you're just... But then he transfers to Syracuse and just honestly looks so much better, and I feel like he fit better on that team. If you're looking for a quarterback in the late rounds, a guy who's kind of like a little gunslinger. He has a gunslinger mentality, but he doesn't have the best decision making for that. He also has good size. Then Kyle McCord is your guy. He's getting comparisons to Mitchell Trubisky. I see a bit of a higher upside player than Mitchell Trubisky, but coming out, I see similar. And this is a player that's going rounds 3 to 4. Mitchell Trubisky was a top 5 pick, so I really do like Kyle McCord at this point. And as a Penn State fan, I hated him when he played at OSU. I mean, I didn't hate him, but at the same time, I didn't like him, and I'm pretty sure he ended up beating us anyway because Penn State does horrible against Ohio State. But at the same time, he wasn't very good either. He's just like a check down machine. So playing at Syracuse though, he's a decent sleeper. I like him in this year's draft. Just kind of depends what system he ends up going to. As we get to my final player, one of my biggest sleepers in this entire draft who is not getting enough talk about him is Nick Nash, a player who was just literally he was a finalist for the Biletnikoff Award which is for the nation's top wide receiver. And nobody is talking about Nick Nash. He was awesome. People were giving him Heisman hype at one point. I know that's absolutely absurd for a wide receiver that played at San Jose State, but he was awesome to watch. 1,382 receiving yards, 16 receiving touchdowns. He led the FBS, and he was tied for second with 104 receptions. That is nuts for a San Jose State wide receiver who, at the same time, you got to think, who's throwing him the football? You know, nobody good is throwing him the football. Yet he's just continuing to come down with that ball. He has the potential to expand on his route tree now. He has great acceleration, and he has great separation to boot with that. He's a really good leaper with that full body extension. He can just like move around, use his arms, catch that ball really well. And they even put him in on gadget plays. Nick Nash is a massive sleeper in this draft. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him. And he has very few weaknesses. Could do a better job of disguising underneath route. Like, these are little things. Nick Nash, I really hope he doesn't go to a team, say, like Kansas City, because they will be able to develop a guy like him pretty well. But in general, just Nick Nash is a pretty good guy. He's getting round 5 projections, and I feel like he's like a round 3 type receiver. And for me personally, he's one of my biggest sleepers in this draft. And that takes us to the end of the video. If you guys did enjoy, feel free to hit a like and possibly subscribe if you wanna. That is a thing. And yeah, here was just some of my sleepers for 2025. I hope to do some more next year and kind of flesh out the list a little bit better. But at the same time, I like a lot of these players, and most of the reason I'm talking about them is because in my mock draft videos and top 10 videos, you're not going to end up seeing these players, and they need more hype around their names, because a lot of them I see at least starter, maybe star potential, maybe even superstar, who knows. And that's why I decided to make this video. But that is the end of it, and I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.